Good morning, everyone. Good morning, our dear attendees, and of course, our beloved panelists. Thank you so much for joining us today in this webinar. We will be discussing a very important topic, which is the benefit of life insurance in our society today. My name is Vincent Asekame, and I'll be moderating this webinar. I'd like to especially welcome all our attendees to this webinar. The theme of our webinar is the burden we share, protecting our loved ones with life insurance. It's a very critical topic and very important for us to understand the benefits and the importance of life insurance, especially in a world where we live today where the unexpected can happen at any time. Life could take an unexpected turn, and it is important that we are all very prepared for moments like this. In this webinar today, we have amazing panelists and speakers who will be doing justice to this topic, talking to us from their wealth of experience, talking to us from even personal experiences on the role that life insurance has played and that they've seen life insurance play and how it can benefit also. We also have members of the Coronation Life Insurance team who are also on the call who will take questions from our attendees, and we'll be able to clear all your doubts and give you necessary information that you need to proceed in your planning journey. We'll just get some more people on the call, and then we would proceed to the welcome address by our MD. All right, so we'd like to just invite the Managing Director of Coronation Life Assurance, Mr. Adebowale Adesono, who's our chief host for today's webinar. So please give us his opening remarks. Good morning, Debo.
Good morning, Vincent, and good morning, everyone. I'll take the opening remarks now. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me, Vincent?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Network's good. All right. Good day, everyone. On behalf of the entire team at Coronation Life Assurance Limited, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar titled The Burden We Share, Protecting Loved Ones with Life Insurance. My name is Adebowale Adesono. I'm the CEO of Coronation Life Assurance Limited, and I'm honored to kick off this timely and important conversation today. In many homes across Nigeria and beyond, there are often people who the family relies on for their school fees, for hospital bills, for rent, and for so much more. Now, if you're one of such people, or you know someone who is, then you will understand exactly what we mean by the burden we share. It's a joint responsibility we carry graciously, but it's also one that can weigh heavily, especially when life takes an unexpected turn. This webinar is about realizing and recognizing that reality and introducing life insurance not as a scary or complicated topic, but as a practical solution, one that offers peace of mind, long-term protection, and financial dignity for both you and the people you care about. Today, you will hear from speakers who understand these responsibilities. We have leaders in finance, in insurance, in business, and in everyday life. They'll be sharing not just their expertise, but real life stories, practical advice, and simple strategies to help us all protect what really matters to us. So I'll say, thank you once again for joining us. We hope you leave today with a fresh perspective, useful knowledge, and the confidence to make informed decisions about your financial future and the people who depend on you. So let's get started now. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Debo, for that wonderful opening remarks. I think you've set the tone for the conversation that we'll have today. Life is unpredictable. We work so hard. We try to support our families, our loved ones, and our friends, and we try to create a sense of security among people who depend on us. But life can take an unexpected turn, no matter how careful we could be or we can be. Life can take an unexpected turn. And what happens to the people who look up to us, the people who depend on us when life takes an unexpected turn? And that's what we'll be discussing today. And it is on that note that I would like to invite our keynote speaker, to give us her keynote address. Our keynote speaker for today is Pi Gamde. Pi is a seasoned business executive, a reinvention and transformation catalyst with over 25 years of diverse corporate experience across various industries in Nigeria and the United Kingdom. She has worked in banking, insurance, electronic media conglomerates comprising agro-allied telecommunications, trading, and capital markets. Currently, Pi serves as Chief Talent Officer at Coronation Group, a composite financial services firm. She leads a diverse range of enterprise responsibilities within the Coronation ecosystem. Pi holds a postgraduate degree in human resource management from Bedfordshire University, UK, and a bachelor's degree in English language from the University of Jos in Nigeria. She's a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, a certified reinvention associate with the Reinvention Academy USA, and a Women in Management Board Fellow. I mean, if there's someone to talk to us about life insurance and the benefits, I think that Pi has a very vast experience working with people, managing people from different stages of their lives. I'm sure she knows so much about this burden that we share and how we can protect our loved ones with life insurance. So Pi, please, over to you to give us your keynote address. Good morning, Pi.
Good morning, Vincent. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm hoping that we will have an exciting session this morning. We will learn and also do well after we have learned from today's session. So I'm going to go straight into the session. I've been asked to speak about the burden that we share, protecting our loved ones with life insurance. I believe I have 20 minutes. Hopefully I will do it in less than 20 minutes. So I want to start by giving us a wake-up call, just saying, I'm asking us to wake up. Tiny buffers, massive risk. So Nigeria today has less than 1% coverage, right, in terms of our households. Okay, so we are just with less than 1% coverage. Most Nigerian households are just one unforeseen death away from spiraling into financial ruin. And the data shows that 1 in 3 families will experience financial hardship within 1 month of losing their primary earner. Many of us on this call today, I believe, are primary earners or primary, key contributors in terms of our family financial obligation. So let that sit with us. So why should this give us a wake-up call? Why should it wake us up? Millions are living without a safety net, and so are our families. That's our reality today. So if we look at some data and statistics here, I want to look at Africa and then Nigeria. So Africa's life insurance gap. Life insurance penetration across Africa stands at just 2.4% of GDP, compared to a global average of 7%. And of this 2.4%, South Africa accounts for 79% of that market, which highlights our underinvestment in this space, given, of course, our population size. Now, let's look at our low coverage in Nigeria. Nigeria's overall insurance penetration sits at about 0.5% of GDP. And life insurance is just a subset of this figure. So what we're seeing here is that less than 1% of Nigerians, less than 1% of us hold any form of insurance, which underscores the crisis that, we could face should we encounter a loss, which many of us have had to deal with. So I want us to pause and ponder further, okay? I believe my conversation today is really around getting us to really rethink how we view life insurance. We all work hard every day, and we're working for the people we love. Yet we often forget to protect the very future that we're working so hard to build. I want this to sit with us for a moment. We work hard every day. We wake up, we go through the grind, traffic, work late long hours, yet we forget to protect the very future that we are working so hard to build. So let's ponder some more. Okay, we all have someone we care for. Our children, parents, siblings, partners, and it goes far beyond that, communities. But many of us are financially vulnerable. So in the event of unexpected losses, we will struggle. And so we say that the idea of preparing for loss is uncomfortable. Nobody likes to talk about death. Nobody likes to talk about loss. But preparation is the gift that we give to those we leave behind. That's how I would like to look at today's subject. It is how we prepare and give a gift to those that we leave behind. So here's our reality. And this topic is really powerful, okay? Because in truth, life is a journey that we all share, but so also is loss. And we generally don't think of it in these terms. Loss is also a journey that we share. It's common to all of us. And so when we don't prepare for the inevitable, we're not just left with grief. There's chaos, there's confusion, the vacuum that, it leaves financially. It destabilizes an entire generation. So I'm asking us today to rethink, we set our mindset about how we think about life insurance. We shouldn't see it as a product. Many of us see it as a grudge purchase. But I dare say that it is really a radical act of love. Remember what I said, it's a gift we leave behind for those that we love. So let's look at some myth of later. So I want to focus on the myth of later. Why do we postpone the inevitable? We know that death is part of our life's journey. But the question I'll ask us here today is, when last did you talk about life insurance over that lunch or brunch or dinner? When last? It's not a topic of discussion. We generally don't talk about it. We live in a society where we plan vacations better than we plan for death. Many of us, I'm sure on this call, we've already planned the vacation for right into 2026. How many of us have planned in the event something happens to us? We insure our cars faster than we insure our lives. I remember a story was told of a gentleman who I had to fix this was many years ago, his Mercedes-Benz, I don't remember what model it is. And he wouldn't spare a penny to fix that car. He got it sorted. But then he also had to run some comprehensive medicals and he had to pay out of pocket and he was struggling to pay for it. What a conundrum. And that's how many of us live. Why is this? I look at it from this lens. One, death is uncomfortable, and so we don't want to face that that subject that is still inevitable. And then secondly, we view insurance as technical. Somehow we believe we have time. When we're told, we say, oh, I'll think about it, I'll get back to you. But the reality is, how much time do we think we have? So I'd like to share a true story, what I call when preparation became protection. Many years ago, we had a staff who joined our organization, a company I had worked for many years ago. Stellar, smart, sharp lady, only child of her mother, full of life. She joined our team and brought just a lot of brilliance with her. But within 3 months into her role, she passed away due to a terminal illness. Between the time it was discovered and the time she passed away, 3 months. Heartbreaking, we all were really shattered. But one of the things that stayed with me was that, once an employee resumes, you are enrolled on into the group life. So she was enrolled in our group life scheme at that time from day one. So her family, whilst they were grieving, they were able to receive a payout. I believe that payout came within 30 days of her passing. We were able to process that insurance, and it was a really reasonable payouts that gave her mother dignity, relief, and a way to navigate that storm. So I say to us on this call that life insurance is not a HR policy. Many of us view it as such, but it's really how we show humanity in motion, in organizations. So the thing that stuck with me is that life insurance is not about death, but about dignity. That's another thing I want us to remember as we continue with this conversation. It's about dignity. So beyond the myth, life insurance is not just for the wealthy. Many of us think you have to have money before we insure. But the reality is that we don't need to. In fact, those of us who don't have sufficient money have that burden of ensuring that we enroll or take out a life insurance. So some of the old school myth thinking, I'm too young, but I say actually that's when it's the cheapest and smartest. I don't earn enough. I say life insurance is for people who don't have enough, because your loved ones may have even less without you. I already have a savings. Savings run out. Your savings will run out. If you have to take from your savings to pay for one medical emergency, your savings completely gone. Life insurance does not negotiate. Whatever you put into the life insurance, you will certainly get out in the day of adversity. For those of us who are employees, we say my employer has a plan. Great. But what happens when you leave that job? What happens when you leave that job? And I noted something whilst I was doing my, my research, further research into the in insurance, uptake in Nigeria. If you look at it, the Life Insurance Association of Nigeria reports that fewer than 4% of Nigerians have personal life insurance, despite a rapidly growing middle class. So the middle class is growing. We're earning more, but we're still not protecting. That is not financial literacy. It's a blind spot that we must shine a light on. So life insurance, what's the real purpose of life insurance? I call it love, legacy, and liberation. Love, legacy, and liberation. Okay, so we've already established that life insurance is not about money, but about removing a future burden. So I like to quote from Maya Angelou. We use this, most people use it in a different space, but it resonated with me as I was putting my thoughts together for this session. Maya Angelou said, people will forget what we said, but they will never forget how we made them feel. And in the context of insurance today, what better feeling can we leave for our loved ones, right, than the assurance that we thought of them even in our absence? I thought for me, I thought that was powerful. It's not just for the breadwinners, for our parents, it's for everyone who wants to protect anyone that they care about. In other climes, life in, like we established, insurance is a major contributor into their GDP. So I say to us here, life insurance says, I may not be there, but I made sure that you're not alone. And that's the message we're preaching today, that you don't leave your loved ones without, a buffer. So the personal case for life insurance, there are 4 things I wrote here. 1, peace of mind. Like we've said, it's not about you, it's protecting those we truly love and giving them financial stability in our absence. Income replacement. So if you lose your income, at least your family will be secured. Debt and funeral costs. It helps us to settle obligations without putting a burden on family. And then lastly, legacy and dignity. Like we said, it's an act of love that ensures dignity is sustained. So I want to look at it from the organizational lens. 4 key things that we need to think about as an organization. 1 is that it reinforces our dignity of care to our duty of care to our employees, the duty of care. Beyond that, the that it's a regulatory requirement. Beyond that, it's a duty of care, and we need to start repositioning the conversation around life insurance as not just an obligation, but really a duty of care. It strengthens employee morale, knowing that the employer is thinking of them long term. It enhances our employee value proposition because it's one of the ways we show to our employees that we care. I remember some years ago, we had an incident, in the office, a car that rammed into the building. And one of our employees was, she was about exiting the building, and she was affected. She was covered, duly covered, and she was able to get a payout also. So there are many instances I can share. And lastly, from the organizational lens, is that it embodies our commitment to fostering a safe, respectful, and a supportive workforce, one that aligns with our own core values and expected behaviors. So here's my closing call to all of us. We don't talk about insurance enough, but we truly should. And so where do we grow from here? If you're an individual, all of us, on these calls are individuals. Review your policies. If you have none, start today. Start to have the conversations. As an employer, embed group life as non-negotiable. If you're a leader, and as an employee, ask to ensure that you are adequately covered. Ensure that you are adequately covered. If you're a leader, make wellness about wholeness, and that includes protection. It includes protecting the people who work with us. If you're afraid to talk about death, remember it's not the end, it's part of the plan. We must remember that when the unthinkable happens, and it will happen, life insurance is the bridge between tragedy and recovery. So my final thoughts: let us not leave our families to grief and bills. Let us not let dignity die with the breadwinner. As we love deeply, we should plan wisely, because love isn't just what we feel, it is really what we prepare for. Thank you. Skipped. I think that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pai. Thank you. Really, really great presentation. You touched on a lot of areas as it concerns life insurance. You talked about how we plan for vacations more than we plan for death. We insure our cars faster than we insure our lives, and this is really true if you even calculate the policy counts that we have, the kinds of policies that people buy, particularly in Nigeria today. And I like your concluding part where you talked about us not leaving our families to griefs and bills. When we leave them, it's one thing to grieve, and adding the bill to it. Sometimes you have to forget that you're mourning and have to find money to clear the bill. So it's important really that we don't leave our families to griefs and bills. Both are going to be very disastrous. So thank you very much, Pai. Really appreciate the time you put together in putting the presentation together. We'd like to also inform our attendees, you can drop your questions in the Q&A section of your screen. Just type your questions there. We would answer them. We'll try to answer them live, and we will take some also on the call if you'd like to also direct your questions to the panelists as they speak. Before we move into the panel session, would like to put up a poll now just to gauge our awareness level and preparation level, especially following the presentation from Pai, and also even understanding if we are prepared to, when life takes an unexpected turn, are we prepared? So the poll is up now. It talks about how prepared we are if something unexpected happens, if we have life insurance policy for us and for our loved ones, and of course, if you'd want a free one-on-one consultation or review after this webinar with any of our team members, we would be glad to give you a free consultation to know your options, to know the options for your loved ones, and how you can proceed to immediately purchase a life insurance policy. And Pi also talked about the myth of later. Don't postpone it. It's it's anything can happen, so it's important, as important as yesterday, right? While the poll is up, we will just quickly introduce our amazing panelists who are also going to do great job to this topic. I'll quickly introduce Zina Giwa Amu. Zina is the COO and founder, Digimatics Technologies. She's a CEO and co-founder, where she directs the creation of proprietary digital-first products, such as Nigeria's leading online lottery platform. She also serves as a director, shared services at Burin Limited, steering legal, talent management, administration, communications, technology, and corporate governance across the energy group. Zina is a lawyer turned technology native with more than 25 years leadership in financial services, supply chain logistics, technology, and energy. Zina is known for turning bold visions into scalable, high-performance operations. She's a member of two associations who currently enjoy group life coverage. That's from Coronation Life Assurance. She offers a unique and informed perspective on the real-life value of insurance protection. Her participation in this webinar will bring both personal experience and executive insights into how life insurance supports professionals and their dependents across industries. Zina is into the game. She understands clearly real time what life insurance is and the importance it could be for people. So good to have you here, Zina. Good morning.
Good morning and good afternoon to you, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Olaide Olusoji. Okay. Olaide is a seasoned finance strategist with over 2 decades of experience spanning financial strategy, investor relations, treasury and liquidity management, IFRS reporting, taxation, and fundraising. She has held senior roles in leading institutions, including Asset and Resource Management, ARM Investment Managers, Eco VC Partners, and Hygia, making impactful contributions across sectors such as oil and gas, technology, healthcare, and investment. Olaide now serves as the CEO of O3 Advisory. She leads the firm's mission to help businesses build scalable financial structures, strengthen their governance, enjoy financial clarity, and prepare for investor engagement. Olaide's passion lies in designing financial systems and structures that enable companies to operate seamlessly and sustainably. She's a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria and an MBA graduate of Business School Netherlands. Olaide brings a holistic lens to financial decision-making. She believes that when businesses are well structured, they subsequently extend protection through wealth, stability, and foresight into the lives of the founders and people behind them. Olaide is a financial guru. She's a financial expert. And of course, we can't talk about life insurance without talking about the financial aspects from a business perspective, in terms of group life, and also from our individual perspective. So very, very good to have you here with us, Olaide. Good morning.
Good day, everyone, and thank you for having me here.
All right, our final panelist for today is Chibudike Anyogu. Chibudike is a service-oriented insurance professional with over 5 years of technical operations experience. He currently serves as team lead individual life underwriting, where he has played a key role in driving the company's strategy for expanding its retail operations and the growth of his bancassurance relationship, as well as the adoption of digital solutions as a means of driving widespread adoption of insurance services nationwide. Chibudike began his career as an associate counsel for Synergy Law Partners, where he provided legal representation on a variety of legal cases. He's a solicitor and advocate of Nigeria and holds an LLB honors from Afe Babalola University, Ado-Ekiti. He's also a member of both the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators and the Chartered Insurance Institute of Nigeria. Good to have you here, Chibudike.
Thank you. Good to be here.
All right. Just on a lighter note, I think that we have Zina and Chibudike who are lawyers, but Zina is not a lawyer turned tech guru, and then Chibudike, a lawyer turned insurance specialist. So I'm sure along the line we may have some legal perspective into life insurance today. So looking forward to it. We'll quickly start with the first question for Pi. Pi, we'll start with you with the first question. And we just want to, sorry to bring you in again, we just want to talk about employee wellness, right? You talked about, you gave some scenarios, right? Now, I want to talk about a 2022 PwC survey on employee wellness. And the results of that survey show that 80% of Nigerian employees report that financial stress affects their job performance. Now, in your experience, how do you think financial insecurity, especially the absence of life insurance, impacts employee productivity and mental health?
Thank you, Vincent, for that question. I think that financial insecurity, whilst it's invisible, but its weight is heavy. That's the first thing I'd like to say. So when an employee is worried about how their family will survive if something happened to them, it erodes mental bandwidth, creates a lot of emotional, instability, and just overall engagement with teams, or even just how they engage at work. I've seen really talented people, driven professionals that mentally check out. It's not because they lack discipline. It's not because they cannot do the work, but because they're carrying silent fears that, is not spoken about. What if I don't make it home today? What happens to my kids? I remember many years ago, I was in my office in one of my jobs, and I had this mature gentleman in his early 40s, I believe, early 40s, walked into my office and just sat, and then just broke down and started crying. I was afraid, I was worried what's going on, and I let him. He probably sat in my office crying for like an hour, and I had to just give him time to come to himself. It was these burdens that he carried and no outlet, like we say, silent fears. So the absence of life insurance amplifies that fear. So it's not just about money, again, like we said, it's about dignity. So when our people feel protected, they operate from a place of survival. When they don't feel protected, they operate from a place of survival and not necessarily excellence, because they're carrying a lot. So if we want our teams to show up fully present, we have to create the security for them to exhale and do well in their work. I say life insurance, and we almost leave understanding that it is part of that psychological safety net that we give to our employees. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pai. I think that's brilliantly answered. I would jump to Olaide, just still on that chain of thought. Olaide, still talking about this angle of finance, right? According to EFINA, a 2023 report from EFINA, it showed that perceived high costs is one of the top 3 reasons businesses avoid employee benefit schemes, including insurance. We talked about financial insecurity just now. So insurance, one of the benefits, and perceived high cost is one of the reasons businesses avoid this benefits. Even though group life premiums could be as low as 1 to 3% of the annual payroll. Also, finance teams are viewed as cost controllers, always focused on cutting expenses, protecting the bottom line, and all that. Now, based on your experience, leading finance structures, finance strategies, and the likes, how do you justify or balance lump sum payments for benefits like life insurance within a cost-sensitive environment, which literally is almost all companies today being very cost-sensitive, right? And in your view, why do you think organizations still delay or avoid compliance with life insurance?
Thank you, Vincent. So maybe to follow up with what Pat said, I think it's all about understanding the benefits of life insurance. Even though we say accountants, we call ourselves, some people will say we are being counters, cost controllers. But one thing people need to understand is that what is the benefit? I've seen experiences where we've had people that had lost people suddenly, and then that life insurance payout had been what has sustained their family. For some, it has actually sustained the business. So I think even for us, from the financial angle, is understanding what exactly the benefits are in terms of our people. When I mean our people, our staff. For some large organization, it is compulsory. You will notice that life insurance is taken by the employers. But one thing for the MSA, for the SMEs, most times, most SMEs do not take that because they are very, very, like you said, they're in the cost-sensitive environment. However, it's understanding those benefits. Just like we do for the HMOs currently now, you know that most organizations will take out HMOs for their staff because they understand the benefit. I think for me is understanding that benefit and understanding from what I said that it is dignity. It is not really you looking at it from that point. What else can you give your staff? That peace of mind that comes in having life insurance. If they leave today, what happens to their loved ones at the end of the day? And one thing most of us don't also understand is that when it comes to premium, especially when it's personal life insurance taken, that premium is actually tax exempted. Most people do not even understand that benefit that comes in taking your own personal life insurance. There's that benefit that is exempted from taxes and you do not pay taxes on that. So I would say that is the main thing. Understanding the benefit is really one of the main reasons that all organizations need to know, which then makes it easier for them to say that it is no longer a cost, but it's a benefit to the organization, also a benefit to individuals. Thank you, Vincent.
Thank you so much, Olaide. It's no longer a cost, but a benefit. I really hope that we have, SMEs and finance controllers here who can understand that life insurance is a benefit. Okay, Zina has a hands up. Zina, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Olaide said, because I think these are critical points. But one thing that, again, from a leadership perspective, we cannot, as leaders of organizations, responsible leaders, I should say, leave it to one group of people alone to justify whether these welfare benefits should be paid and when they should be paid. So it's not just a finance team responsibility. It's HR, right? It's senior management. It's all of the people who really do care about the talent. Pai made very good points earlier. Some of these things are intangible, right? But the effect, the impact is real. Therefore, it's incumbent on all of us as leaders to make a business case for these fees and payments to be prioritized by finance. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you very much, and I think that's spot on, right? We can't just leave it for finance. Finance probably look at it from a finance perspective, but we have to make them understand the people benefits from it, and I think that's really good. I would then ask you a question, Zina. In Nigeria today, we have around 30 million Nigerians who belong to associations, cooperative groups, and the likes, right? And this across the 36 states and the FCT, largely because cooperatives and associations, people depend on them for everyday living. I mean, the payments plan, the bulk purchases, and all that. It helps to cushion the effect of, economic challenges that we have in our country today. Now, as someone who's invested in such associations, why do you think it's very important to integrate life insurance into cooperative models? I mean, I'd like to understand your thinking, right, and how it has been so far, because most of the associations that you see today typically will just, let's gather money for someone to pick first, pick second, monthly payments, or let's buy a cow together for Christmas and the like. So, what's your thinking towards how now incorporating life insurance into an association?
That's a fantastic question. And I think it's important first, there's several parts to the question. It's important first for me to identify that we are not, at least the two groups that you mentioned I participate with, are not cooperatives in the classic sense of cooperatives. And it's an important distinction because we need to let people understand the various applications of insurance. You don't need to be a registered organization in order to participate as a group of people, right? And that's important. So my groups specifically are actually just a group of friends. One, interestingly enough, is my primary school group. Went to primary school, 40 plus years ago. I just aged myself, but no problem. 40 plus years ago, and we found one another over time. There's actually about probably 200 of us in that group, right? The other group is a smaller section of my university group. As a matter of fact, Pi and I apparently went to the same university, go Jossites. But within these two groups, we've come together, right? Various friend groups have come together, and so as we have these conversations, our primary purpose was to reconnect. It was not to set up business, to get registered, and to formalize, the group. So it's possible to do this even outside of a cooperative, and I think that's an important point to make. But now to the point of why, right, and what the application is. Rather than give an intellectual response, let me speak from experience, right, and what we did. So in both groups, we tend to be right about the same age. We have shared experiences, even if limited to school, right? Many of us have gone off to do different things and have had, various levels of success in life. But again, we stay committed based on that thing that brought us together. As a practice during group sessions, we talk about everything, right? We try to keep politics, sex, religion out of conversations because it gets very, very testy very quickly, right? But we talk about things that matter to us as groups, family, jokes, right? These types of things. One of the things that we did in my primary school group is we set up what we call a needy fund, for friends, for members of the group who had needs at various points in time, during the year, usually around festive periods, right? Easter, Christmas, Eid celebrations. These types of things generally is where you see the big gap, right, in income levels. So we set up a fund, and this was outside of even insurance. We, from time to time, just those who can pay monies into those funds, right? So we have, what do we have coming together? We have age, right? Which is a common factor. We have shared experiences. We have culture of support. And we know we all have dependents that we need to care for. So these are basically the fundamental things that bring us all together. Now, the question is, how do we then formalize these groups and the burden of support, right? Burden and gift, right, of support, so that we're not placing collect calls for donations every time there's a need, right? So again, we have that fund. That was number one. We then set up, we started to talk about life insurance, right? That's another product. Then we talked about savings because, that's another thing that we don't really talk about enough. And savings with Coronation, at least, has a life insurance benefit that is really, really important and was definitely relevant for us. So these were some of the solutions that made sense in our situation. And certainly it became easier to talk about the practical applications and the reasons why, once you start to find those commonalities.
Thank you so much, Sina. And I think that's a very fresh insight into the power of associations. I mean, a number of us belong to alumni groups, committee of friends. I mean, in Nigeria, we can set up a committee for anything. You're getting married, a Ashwebi committee, and others. Maybe we need to begin to think about more important things like procuring a group life insurance policy for our group. And it's really incredible to see that friends of many years ago, from primary school till now, can come together to do this for themselves. And I think that it just shows that even the generation that they would bring forward, they're probably going to imbibe in them some very, very important virtues. And I really want to say well done. That's really, really cool. Chibudike would quickly go to you now. And my question to you is straight. Now, one of the most common objections to life insurance is the belief that there's no immediate benefit for the insured, right? And of course, many people don't expect to die soon. Pai talked about the fact that death is an uncomfortable discussion, and it's so true, right? People don't like to talk about the fact that they'll die, and a lot of people are not that generous to buy insurance for their loved ones. And if the insurance maybe could save them from dying, maybe they will take it. So now, what are the other important advantages of having a life insurance policy, right? Beyond the death benefits. Can you speak to features like living benefits if there are saving elements, investment link components, permanent disability, or other advantages if there are of life insurance that maybe people can also take advantage of?
Yeah, good morning. So I'll just quickly speak to living benefits first of all. So one of the common misconceptions about life insurance is that the only benefit that accrues on the policy is payable upon the death of the insured person. And this is something that even myself, I had that misconception until when I joined the industry, and I got a bit of knowledge on that. So life insurance doesn't just cover death. You can also have additional covers on them, on the policies such as critical illness, for example. In the event of, for example, cancer, stroke, or any of those ailments, when like they say, life happens. Even, for example, taking into account the story that Pi told earlier about a colleague that passed away within 3 months of joining the company. That was probably due to an ailment of sorts, probably a critical illness. And in that situation, there will be payout, like the Coronation will be able to pay the insured person to cover, at least to either to cover for the treatment or to make sure that the end of life is much more comfortable for the person. And there's also disability cover as well. So I believe there was a mention of a bit of an accident outside one of the offices where a car drove into the premises, and I probably injured a staff member. So that's something that can be covered under disability as well. It's any form of disabling injury, and the limit is obviously up to the total sum assured of the insured person. And then Olaide alluded to this earlier as well. There are tax benefits to buying a life insurance policy, right? So under for when you're paying your income tax, a deductible you can get on it is your life insurance premium. That's what's payable annually, right? And then for people that are not as selfish, from my personal experience, I found that peace of mind is priceless. So that peace of mind that comes with buying a life insurance policy, knowing that your people are taken care of, even if life happens. The world is changing, a lot of things are happening every day. There are a lot of things to worry about, always a new thing, do this, do that. But you know that this one thing at least is taken care of. That provides a peace of mind that I think is very helpful to your mental health. Now, speaking to things like savings and investment and policies, right? So we have several options for that: endowment policies and investment policies. So these policies are expected to make payment to the insured person while they are alive, and that will be at the maturity of the policy. There's also options for partial withdrawal in the event of an emergency that was unforeseen. But yes, these policies provide that option, as well as also providing the life insurance protection that I alluded to earlier. So we have those as well.
All right, thank you so much, Chibudike. So, I'm glad that we're able to dispel that myth that life insurance is not just only death benefits, but there are also some living benefits that people can get from life insurance. So I hope that our listeners are able to take that away. So I'll go back to you, Pi. Next question to you says that a 2024 Interpoint report shows that life insurance has become Nigeria's fastest growing insurance segment, of course, largely driven by regulation. For example, the Pension Reform Act of 2004 mandates that businesses with 5 or more employees provide group life insurance for their staff. Now, many businesses and organizations are still yet to fully comply. In your view, should life insurance be a standard part of employee benefit packages, especially for mid to low income earners? So should it be should it be something that should be negotiated at the time of recruitment? Why, if you think so, why not?
Thank you, Vincent. Let me say that, the one way to simply look at life insurance is that it should be a standard benefit. Okay. The law may require it, but leadership should demand it. I echo the same sentiments that, Zina and Olaide and Chibidike have also said. We need to demand it as leadership. We cannot just say, okay, it's because regulation says we should do it. Our conscience should demand it, is what we're saying. So it should never be an option. It should never be optional in the employer's conscience, is how I would put it. We must embed it in how we value people, in how we say we value people. We as employers, we must embed it, okay? And more so for those who are in that mid to lower income, bracket. It's a game changer for them. So it's important that we do that. So let me add also to that, is that these are employees, those who are in that middle to low income. They're the ones who often support extended family. They carry a lot of the burden and they don't have excess cash. They are the same ones that don't have access to sophisticated financial planning tools. So a group life policy is a modest, is one of the modest benefits that we can give them, and it really can be that difference between generational collapse and continuity if tragedy should strike. So when we speak of inclusive growth, this is what it means, is what I would say. This is what inclusive growth means, is that we're protecting those who build the company's value every day. They work, they build the value for the company. Why can't we protect them? We have a duty of care to protect them. So I say that a good employer will pay salaries, but a great one will protect the lives of her employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bai. A good employer will pay salaries, and a great employer would protect the lives of her employees. I hope that we have employers who are and are listening to this. I will quickly go to Laide. Still in this space. Now, many people still see life insurance as a luxury and reserved for high net worth individuals only. I think Pai also mentioned that in her keynote presentation. A 2022 Augusto & Co. report shows that only 0.5% of Nigerians have any form of life insurance. Yet, despite being Nigeria's fastest growing insurance segment, it remains a secondary priority for most, even though it could be a financial lifeline in a crisis. Now, from a personal finance standpoint, aside the business angle now, why should life insurance be a key part of an individual's financial planning toolkit? How can it help cushion the effects of financial shocks such as death, loss of income, or unexpected loss of a breadwinner?
Thank you, Vincent. So I will talk about a story, and it is a real life thing, a real life story. There was a gentleman I was working with as far back as 2007 to 20. I was in that company from 2007 to 2016. My boss went on an official trip, and on his way back, there was an accident, and we lost him immediately. It was immediate death because the impact was quite high. We came back, we did everything in terms of the burial and all that was required to do. I was then opportune to prepare his balance sheet. Balance sheet meaning to understand the net worth of my boss at that particular point in time. I did that balance sheet, and then that balance sheet was negative until I brought in the value of the group life insurance payout that would be given to that family. And that is the personal experience that I've had. You understand the way, even the trauma when we lost him at that particular point in time, and then also being told to prepare his net worth, because I was more like the next to him at that particular point in time. And until we brought in that group life payout, the net worth was actually negative. That actually taught me the importance of having a group life insurance as an individual or even as an organization for your staff. Like Par said, it is not about being a good employer. It's also about being a great employer. What exactly does that give? It has to be part of your financial planning, even as an individual. Most of us focus on investment. We focus on, we want to buy homes. We want to put our money in mutual funds. Like Pat said at the beginning, savings actually do run out. I think people need to actually understand that. But having that cushion in terms of this payout from the life insurance policy would also go a long way to actually assist the people you are actually leaving behind. And that for me is where the peace of mind actually comes in. And that is very, very important. So it should be everyone's, it's not even about whether you're employed or you're not employed. Whether you're working on by yourself, you're an entrepreneur, you're self-employed, you're working with an employer that is a great employer to work with. You're working even with that good employer that has not actually taken out a life insurance for you. I think it is necessary as individuals that we actually do that as part of our financial plan. That's it from me, Vincent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lady. Really, really touching story there. And of course, as we carry out investment and savings, which will actually run out, we must make life insurance as part of our individual financial toolkit. Spot on. Chibudike, please go ahead. Your hands is up.
Yes. So just based on her story, right? So I think one way to look at life insurance is as a form of investment as well. Even the pure life insurance that you buy, the term assurance, where you don't expect any quote unquote living benefits, right? So for example, look at the story. In terms of the man's net worth, it was the group life insurance, so the payout for the group life insurance that came in to help the family probably get something that can keep them okay, all right. So that's just it, right? So if that investment had not been made on the man's behalf in the form of group life, the family would have been probably worse off than if it was. Now imagine if the man actually had a personal insurance policy on his life. That's actually improve the situation even more. So that's what I wanted to add.
Yes, I think really, really well done. If he had even an additional personal insurance, it would have increased the returns that will get to his family. Pi, please go ahead.
Thank you. Something I just realized, so I know we're just talking about life insurance broadly, but maybe something we haven't factored in this conversation is to be clear, who the beneficiaries are. Because I've also had a situation where the issue of beneficiaries, where we had to process was a big issue. And so we're saying to, employers, HR, make sure you have the right data. We need to also get our staff to update the beneficiaries so that truly who gets the life insurance is really who should get it in the event of, a demise. So I just thought to throw that in as as we're sharing these stories. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think that's spot on. Even for individual life insurance policies, you will need to clearly state beneficiaries so that the original idea is to give your loved ones some form of financial support when life takes an unexpected turn. It doesn't now lead to troubles and quarrels and uncertainty, and the good that you thought you were doing will then turn into something even worse. So it's important to clearly state the beneficiaries. All right, we'll go to Zina to the next question. And Zina, one of the biggest barriers to insurance uptake in Nigeria is trust. Many people still believe insurance doesn't work, which helps explain our penetration rate at less than 1%, right? Compared to neighboring countries like Ghana, 3% penetration rate, and 12% in South Africa, actually 12 to 15%. Now, in your experience introducing insurance products within your association, how have you addressed this trust gap? I'm sure that your friends didn't just come together after all these years to say, we trust Zina, we trust anybody to bring some insurance to us, and then you're never selling something that is tangible. We trust you with insurance after all these years. So how were you able to build this trust with them, and what practical lessons from your success can be applied more broadly into increasing adoption across the country?
So I'd like to think my friends trust me. I think that's number one, especially since they've known me for 40 plus years, right? But anyway, Your point is valid. So trust is a big thing, right? But before I even jump in there, I prefer the comparison to South Africa than to Ghana, right? Let's not get into this who has the best jollof rice thing that we always tend to do with Ghana, okay? I mean, let's think about it in absolute terms. Even that 1% of GDP penetration in Nigeria is multiples of Ghana's 3%, right? So there's no comparison. But let's move beyond that. There's not a jollof rice conversation. So we were not, both groups, we were not immune to this trust deficit, right? Like you say, I think it's embedded in the Nigerian culture. I'm not sure when exactly it happened, but it certainly is, right? And we deal with it across, personal lives, business, in different facets of our life. But the reality is, I think, let's acknowledge that a lot of the trust deficit is based on real experiences, right? Certainly not with Coronation, and that's important to say, but even at the beginning of this seminar, someone posted a question online about another, let's not call them, another insurance agency that they say just generally repudiates claims, right? So it's real. Let's acknowledge that. Now, the question is, what is the basis generally? I think let's even go to the basis before I come to our example. The basis of a lot of this, the trust deficit is, or the lack of uptake, is several things. One, apart from trust, there is the economic and developmental challenge within Nigeria, right? If you have 103 million people at the bottom of the pyramid in Nigeria, and most of those people, or all of them, earn less than $1 a day. Let's even apply your basic Maslow's theory of hierarchy, right? Or hierarchy of needs. If I'm faced with a choice between food to eat and, paying for insurance, something that, as you say, is intangible, it's a clear choice what I'm going to do, right? There's that. There is just financial literacy in and of itself. I think people like Olaide and colleagues like that across the financial services industry can make a dent in that. There is awareness of risks, right, in and of itself. So if we don't talk about the risks as they exist, then how do you sell insurance, right? I know we used to have a saying in insurance is that insurance is sold, not purchased. And it's true, right? For very many reasons. And then of course you have your sort of banking penetration, right? So a lot of these things play in. But in our case, let's again not get intellectual. In our instance, what we did was, you're right, we had to find a few trusted persons. In any group of people, you have various dynamics, and trust is earned, certainly, right, over a period of time, especially in Nigeria. So first things first, you find those people, you start to create the awareness. Now, we have, I think I mentioned earlier, we have regular meetups, especially with my primary school group. We actually have these virtual calls that we do quite often. And in those virtual calls, we tend to introduce one financial topic or the other, right? In addition to planning for the next physical meetup, we throw in some of these financial services topics. Spend 5 minutes talking about insurance, talking about, creating a will, talking about, trusts and the benefit of a trust, investment, savings, right? And usually what happens is a subject matter expert would drive the conversation. So you have lawyers, you have doctors, you have, again, many of us have gone on to do really important things. And I'm really proud of my, especially primary school group. But generally, we talk about it in practical terms, right? We're not trying to get intellectual. It's not PowerPoint presentations. We have to get very, very practical, very pragmatic about the benefits of these things. So in my instance, talking about insurance, I would use myself as an example. I have a 17-year-old son who is now 1 year away from going into university, fingers crossed, 1 year away from university, right? And I have to use him as an example, right? If something were to happen to me today, what would happen to my son, I'm divorced. His father is very present in his life, thank God, but still, right? He lives with me. I'm primary custodian of the child. Therefore, I have to think very practically about what would happen. We've come this far, expended this much money on his education. Do I want his life disrupted if something were to happen to me today? Simple answer is no. Then the next question is, what would I do about it? What do I need to do about it, right? My mother is 80-something-year-old woman, absolutely gorgeous woman, but she's 80-something years old. And, these are things we need to think about in very practical terms, right? So once I start to use myself as an example, fortunately, I've built up trust with them. I'm not sure exactly how that happened, but thank God for it. First things first is, you talk about that life example. I then, like I said, use my son as an example. Many, many years ago, when my son was a toddler, I actually bought life insurance, a 20-year term insurance policy in the US, recognizing that from that age of a toddler, if anything were to happen to me, he had many, many more years of education left, which I did not want disrupted. So I knew that it had to be a significant amount of money. So I got a $1 million policy. Now, because I was so much younger then, it didn't cost a lot, right? The monthly payments on that $1 million policy was more or less insignificant. Now, if I were to renew that policy, because I'm coming towards the end of that, it'll be certainly more money just based on age, right? Because they actually use an actuarial process, right, to do these policies in the US. So there is that. And then, once we start to talk about those practical experiences, I use myself as an example, use one or two other friends that I know well enough about their own life circumstances. Then the next thing is we start to talk about possible solutions. So I talk about my policy in the US. I talk about policies that exist in Nigeria because I know the Coronation ecosystem that well. We start to talk about Coronation. Of course, you start to get, yes, but they did this. Let's not go into the what they did and what they didn't. A lot of people like to go into historical, whether facts or myth, right? But that's not the point. You stay consistent. You talk through the policies, you talk through the risk, you talk through the awareness, and you do it through trusted people, right? Funny story is once we onboarded the first set of people, and the agent who helped, actually two people who helped, Ibironke and oh my God, Mr. Grillo, Kehinde Grillo, fantastic agents who work with Coronation. But once we onboarded those first groups, the next thing which shocked me is I started to get calls on the side. Hey, so, what next are we going to invest in? These were people who were initially just completely, against investments, against any form of, sort of formal, group policies or anything like that. But now we've built that trust. But I'll tell you something. Those calls started to come once they heard from Coronation. Right? So we did all the paperwork and everything. Coronation then contacted them maybe a week or two later, whatever the case may be, with that first statement, that acknowledgement to say, yep, your money is with us, right? And once that happened, it opened up the doors, right? I even started to laugh at them that this is how Nigerians get scammed by 419 people. You do one good thing for them and then suddenly everyone wants to throw their money at you. But the reality is you build up a track record. And once you can do that, I think certainly people are more open to the possibilities that exist. So yes, those were practical examples.
Thank you so much, Tina. I mean, a lot to unpack from that, particularly in terms of the communication style. I mean, I see that from our perspective, it has to be how well do you explain, what real life examples, what's away from the PowerPoint presentations, really, more about the practical explanation about how, the importance of life insurance, asking really, really thought-provoking questions. It brings me to a personal experience just this morning while we were preparing for the webinar, and then we asked the team, do you think it's a great question to ask people, if something were to happen to you now, are you prepared? Which is part of the questions we asked on the poll, the first question. And part of me was, this question is too emotional for Nigerians to ask them about if anything were to happen to you, what will happen to the people you're looking after? But a majority of the team wanted us to go ahead, and we put it out there, and the answers from that, only a few people say, I have everything totally in place. A number of them say, I don't know where to start. A few others say, okay, some pieces are fixed. I need to get some things together. So, I mean, I think we need to be engaging in these conversations. We need to be open to know that anything can happen, and you just don't want to leave. You work so hard to not leave the people who look up to you really in pain. So and when something happens. So thank you so much for that experience and explanation. I'll move quickly to Chibudike. Away from group life insurance, away from group welfare and all that, some individuals still don't know that they can buy life insurance policy for themselves, which is part of the result from the poll, right? A number of people saying, I don't know where to start. So now the question is straight. Can individuals buy group life insurance? Can individuals buy life insurance policies for themselves? And also, can you walk us through the process? What do they need to do? Typical cost, underwriting processes, and yeah, what's the whole process like if an individual was to walk up to you and say, you know what, I want to buy a life insurance for myself, for my loved ones, and all that?
Okay. So I would say to the first question, absolutely. And an individual can buy an insurance policy, and in fact, we strongly recommend that you do that, because the thing about group life is very, very basic, right? So your group life policy, most people are not even aware. It's HR that handles it, so they're not really aware of what's going on in that space. And then it might not really suit their specific need, what they want to do with that money. The money might end up being insufficient, or the way it works, the way it functions might end up not suiting what they need. So on that basis alone, we recommend that every individual should get at least one life insurance policy. Now, in terms of the process, I think the first place to start is to determine what type of product you want. So individual life is not like group life. For individual life, there's a lot of variety. There's a lot of options for the customer to choose from. So it depends on what you want. You can find products that are tailored to meet your specific needs. For example, are you doing a policy for the long term, for the short term, or for the whole of your life? Do you want to just save money and get insurance protection, or do you want to have a proper periodic insurance policy? Are you getting an insurance policy maybe for a personal business of yours, something like, for example, credit life policy, or is it to protect your family? Is it to preserve, maybe to protect a partner within, maybe for example, a group of partners in a firm? Is that who the policy is for? Or is it for some other, maybe a funeral plan, for example? So those are the things you have to consider and walk through. You can probably get in touch with our contact center at coronationinsurance.com.ng. You can also reach out to us. We have a lot of financial advisors who are all NICOM approved and can guide you through the process of determining the product that works best for you. And so that's the product selection aspect. Then when you've decided on your product, next comes the underwriting, which also speaks to the price that you are paying, the cost that you're paying for the insurance cover, right? So there are a lot of things to consider, but I'll just speak to three primary things. The first thing to consider is the age of the person, that's date of birth. So as Pi said in our introduction, your youth, as you are young now, in your time of youth, that's actually the best time to buy an insurance policy, especially if you want one that protects you in the long term, because the younger you are, generally speaking, the cheaper your policy would be. The next thing to consider is the duration of cover. So for example, all things being equal, someone being covered for 1 year will probably pay less than someone that's been covered for 5 years. So that duration of cover will also impact on your pricing. The third thing and the very important thing is the sum assured. So obviously, the higher your sum assured, the higher the premium you will pay. So what the underwriter will then do is consider this, as well as maybe a lot of factors such as your lifestyle, your medicals, and all of those things, and come up with a pricing. Now, in terms of the actual costs, it varies from person to person. Just even if you use the first three criteria I emphasized on, there's a lot of variance. People from different age group, we can be the same age, or want different types of insurance policies, or want different durations of different sums assured. But it's actually quite cheap. And I'll give you a practical example. For example, someone that is age 40 can get a term insurance policy worth 5 million naira for just about 40,000 naira, right? So when you look at what you are paying versus what you could get, that's an excellent, in fact, it's an absurd return on investment when you think about it in that sense, because of providing financial security for your loved ones and at such a low cost. And you have to also remember that that can be used as a deductible on your personal income tax. So really, there's really very little to lose.
Thank you so much, Chibudike. Just a follow-up to that, your answer. Do you mean 40,000 naira per annum?
Yes, exactly. 4,000 naira per annum
Would
or a
give.
term assurance policy of 5 million naira.
Wow. I think that's really, really cool. And I think that people need to really jump on insurance policies because, I mean, life happens. No one gets fully prepared. If we know the hour and the date, fine, but we don't. So yeah, life happens and we need to be prepared. All right, I'll go over to you, Pi, quickly. Let's go a bit personal now. Over the years, you've worked closely with people, right? Navigating major life transitions. I'm sure in the course of your career, you've had to manage people, whether mentees or employees who came in single, then got married, then went into childbirth, loss, even financial hardship. You're seeing the full cycle. Now, from experience, how does life insurance fit into these life journeys? I know you gave us a story earlier, but I mean, how do you think life insurance fits into these life journeys, not just as a financial product now, but as an act of care and long-term planning?
Great question, Vincent. Thank you. So here's how I will start. It fits right in there. This is a case of square peg in a square hole. In a square peg, sorry, and a round hole in a round hole. And here's why I say that, because it is part of our life's journey. So many times, like I mentioned earlier, I want to set it aside. It's separate. We don't talk about it. It's sacrilege to talk about it, but it is actually an aspect of our lives. So I mentioned, earlier how really it's not a topic we discuss when we go for lunch or at dinner. You don't discuss it at baby showers, but at baby showers, you're bringing life to the world. Should it be a topic of discussion? Should that be the gift somebody should give you, as opposed to the the sleep suits that the baby will wear for 2 weeks and they've outgrown it because they're growing so rapidly? How about I take 40,000 naira and I put it in a life insurance scheme for that baby, as opposed to buying that suit that the baby will no longer fit into? I know in Nigerian context, somebody may say, "Are you wishing me death?" No, it's an act of love that I'm setting you up, also. This is my gift of love to you. So we don't discuss it because we think it casts a shadow over what may be joyful. But like we said earlier on, true love really plans ahead. And so it's how do we shift our mindset to begin to see it as an act of love? Life insurance may not be the life of the party, it's not what you discussed, but it definitely, it's the guest that you'll be happy showed up when things get real in your life. So we say, don't despise the fact that it's something that you need to consider even in those milestone journeys of our lives. Just, as I sat here and I'm listening to everybody and I think about many scenarios, just imagine giving that gift to a mother who maybe someday loses that child, right? Or giving that gift to a mother who someday that child loses the mother. So either ways, it's a win-win situation. And so we say it gives you that peace of mind. I've sat across so many employees in the most vulnerable moments. We can't share details because these are very confidential conversations. Navigating losses, they're navigating just gross hardship, sudden changes in their life circumstances, right? And they're just overwhelmed because they're unsure of what's going to come next, right? But then I've also sat with people who took the time to protect, who took the time to cover. I remember as far back in the day, those who are in the insurance place know that there's an insurance card. Way back, I was a child, I remember My father's insurer would come to the house every month to sign and pick up his check. That was how it was done back in the day. It was not digital. My father had us, he had a life insurance scheme. We were all covered. I remember that it was a blue card and it was what's this insurance? Unique insurance. It was unique insurance. I remember that. So thoughtful, thoughtful parents, thoughtful, families, it's, consider this. And so when something happens, you realize that you are able to cover funeral costs, you're able to cover obligations, your children are able to stay in school. Remember the example I shared earlier on. So it doesn't, while life insurance will not erase the pain or the loss that we face, it will certainly soften the blow, right? It will replace the presence of the individual, but it will extend, the provision that you could have lost if you didn't have a life insurance. So, I think it's just important to remember that we've got to be more thoughtful. Like I said earlier on, whilst we show love, we need to also be wise in how we show that love. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pi. I think again we're getting fresh perspectives into even how we communicate the importance of life insurance and other insurance policies. I mean, no one maybe would think about giving an insurance policy in a baby shower or what's that thing they call at the wedding night, the night before the wedding, the bachelor's eve or whatever, just those stuff, right? No one will think about offering a life insurance policy at that point. And the conversations get more difficult when you try to buy life insurance policies for your parents, your in-laws, and the likes. The traditional Nigerian thinking is, you are not wishing me death, are you? So again, we need to be more open, and maybe even insurance companies like us, in our conversations, we need to clearly spell it out. It's not a wish of death, but it's just a kind of a financial proof, being protecting yourself and the people you love, so that in your passing it doesn't become even more difficult for them. All right, we'll move to Olaide quickly, and Olaide wants to talk about SMEs and MSMEs and startups and the likes, right? We've talked a lot about the Pension Reform Act of 2004 and how it mandates businesses to provide group life insurance to their staff. I mean, when they have 5 or more staff, which practically is almost every business in Nigeria today. In fact, mom and pop shops have 5 or more staff. So how do we get them to even provide insurance to their staff, right? MSMEs make around 80% of the workforce in Nigeria today, but you find the life insurance compliance more for enterprises and organizations and the like. So how can MSMEs realistically, let's leave the boardroom conversations of how much they are worth to their actual cash flow. Realistically, how can MSMEs comply with this requirement? What financial strategies or frameworks do you think would make this easier? And maybe it's a case of lack of reinforcement, lack of enforcement. That's if you think so. But how do you think MSMEs can realistically make this happen?
I think for me, I would not say lack of enforcement. I would first of all say it's actually lack of, I would say it's a mindset thing. Mindset and belief. Pi said something we don't want to, is a difficult conversation. We all want to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. I think that's just the way it is. Nobody wants to die, but when they say everybody that wants to go to heaven, we raise up our hands in church, in mosque, and then we all fine, but nobody actually wants to die. So for me, I think the first thing is really about belief and mindset. Because it's not just about enforcement. You said that Reform Act 5 or more in terms of employees. But then how do we get the small, medium enterprises to actually go in and buy into it? The first thing is that change of mindset. The second thing, again, is also teaching and all this webinar that we're having today, even from the insurance companies. People need to know. Chibuike said something, it's just 40,000 naira per annum. Some of what the SMEs pay for HMOs is more than that 40,000 naira per annum to be able to provide healthcare for their staff. So it's also teaching from the insurance company is also very, very key, so that the SME can then go in and believe that this is what we need to do. Mindset, teachings, I would say teachings more of this, and also there may also be a bit of enforcement that also come in that we also need to think about more from the policy makers. But then it's not just about the enforcement, it's not just about the laws, it's about enforcing it and making sure that the SME is actually going to it and actually buy. So cost doesn't seem to be a barrier, but people need to know that cost is not a barrier, that is actually very cheap, that they can actually get it. The mindset thing also has to come in, and the belief thing also has to come in. Enforcement, execution, coming also from the policymakers are also key things for people to be able to buy into this as SMEs. So that's it for me, Vincent. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olaide. Yeah, I really hope that MSMEs understand. And Pai said something earlier about the employer's conscience. It's more about the employer's conscience. MSMEs, cost is not the problem. Your 10 staff, your 20 staff can benefit from a life insurance policy. So thank you very much. We'll move straight to Zina now. Zina, we're coming to your professional capacity. Not the legal aspect now, right? So according to the NCC and EFINA, we have 122 million active internet users in Nigeria, but insurance penetration is still less than 1%, showing a disconnect between digital reach and product access. Now, given your experience in IT and digital space, what digital strategies do you believe could significantly drive the adoption of life insurance in Nigeria? Do you think there are specific platforms, technologies, or partnership that insurance should be leveraging to reach underserved or skeptical segments of the Nigerian population?
Conversation is getting interesting now. Okay. So first things first, I think we're dealing with mixed metrics, right? One is you're measuring persons when you talk about internet users, and then you're talking about, percentage of GDP, money, right? So let's even delve a little bit deeper into what makes up that 1% of GDP. So from research, that the 1% penetration insurance to GDP is actually only about 40% of that 1% is taken up by life insurance products, right? Most of the rest of it is non-life, right? Oil and gas, marine insurance, fire, and all of those types of things. So really the question is why? And it's a valid question, because if only 40% of that number indeed is life insurance based products, life insurance, the investment policies, and all of those types of things, even health. Why, right? When Olaide was talking earlier about, this whole idea that it's too expensive, and it is, because one of the reasons why apparently people are not uptakers of insurance is this concept of need versus want, right? I alluded to that earlier, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and all of that. So at a very base level, I'm thinking about my needs only. I'm not thinking about, the more, fancy things that one could achieve in life. So security, shelter, those basic things. If it comes down to it, do I have a choice as to whether I want to eat or whether I want to pay for a life insurance policy? But let's go back to the metric for a moment. Only 40% of the 1% of GDP is life insurance products. Let's compare that to 12 million, I think, just about 12 million vehicles are said to be on the road in Nigeria, right? And out of that 12 million vehicles on the road, I think it is less than 4 million that actually are insured, right? Okay, so we have people who have enough money to purchase vehicles, but just don't purchase insurance on those vehicles. So the question is it really about cost? Is it really about affordability, right, for a large percentage of the population? 120 something million people. I think the NCC released some data recently, and we have 93 million or 94 million thereabouts unique mobile telephone users. So again, we have enough money to buy telephones, we have enough money to buy data, right? Or we don't have money, or we don't consider insurance important enough to invest in it. So we can argue as to whether it's a case of cost, or we can argue about whether it's other things. I think I want to go back to risk aversion, right? So before I jump into what technology can do, let's even approach the reasons why, right? Practical reasons why people are not taking up insurance. Risk aversion is a big part of it. Olaide talked about this earlier. And I think Pi also mentioned it in many ways. We are a population of risk-averse people. We don't want to think about the possibilities. We know it's going to happen, but we don't really want to think about it. I used to make a joke years ago to say that, you know, insurance in Nigeria is outsourced to God, right? It is not my portion. That's basically what we do in insurance. We pray and we say a lot of Hail Marys, and we just leave it to God, right? I'm going to tell, I'm sorry. I know I have 3 minutes. I'm going to tell a funny joke. When my son was a toddler and we used to visit Nigeria before we actually moved to Nigeria for a period, we had this game in the US where as we drive, he would count fire hydrants. And so when we came to Nigeria the first time, we were driving and my son was looking for fire hydrants, right? He wanted to count. And after like 5-10 minutes, he's like, Mama, there's no fire hydrants. So he says, I said, yeah, Zach, that's interesting that you noticed. He says, so what happens when there is a fire? I said, Zach, we say Hail Marys and we call on God. That's what we do, right? That's our fire protection. Anyway, so let's get back to it. How can technology address some of these things? So if we look at, you know, what the real challenges are, we're risk-averse people. There is a lack of product innovation, really, let's be honest, in insurance in Nigeria. And it's not because the insurance companies are not willing to get, you know, innovative. It's been generally a regulatory challenge. I know this for a fact, right? So if insurance is not sexy, if we're not making the kinds of products that people actually want, can afford, right? And then you have the weak regulatory support. And by the way, weak regulatory support is not just about NICOM. Sorry, it's not just about NICOM. It's more than that, right? It is, let's take car insurance. We talked about 12 million cars on the road with only 3 million. Why? Why are they still on the road? There are human beings there who are responsible for enforcing this. And for some reason, it's not happening, right? So again, there are opportunities, right, in all of these areas. So let's look about even knowledge, sales channels, and I think distribution channels are very, very important also. This is, again, one of the drawbacks, one of the reasons why people are not taking it up as quickly or as regularly as they could. If I'm making a payment, and again, using our personal examples, we're making bank transfers today in 2025, making bank transfers to pay for monthly or quarterly or annual premiums. And those bank transfers then have to be reconciled by some human being on the back end. And it takes a while because I'm not getting that immediate feedback, acknowledgement that my payment has been made. So how can technology play into, say, alleviating and frankly solving and eliminating these problems? These are the opportunities that we now start to look at, even at a sort of micro level, right? Before we start to get fancy. I think first things first, building really strong partnerships with our banking institutions. We have strong financial institutions that are trusted by people. You know, we still have a large number of unbanked in Nigeria, yes, but we have that large sort of captive audience of banked, right? And we have even more important, we have a CBN governor now who is a brilliant person and open to these conversations. This is a great time to reapproach those conversations about sort of how best to embed insurance in the banking space to increase that penetration, right? That's one part of it. And technology can play a large role there. Point of sale insurance is also a key part for every product sold, right? Point of sale insurance for every product sold. E-commerce is a big deal in Nigeria today, and it's growing. It's a growing space. How can we embed insurance in every refrigerator sold, every television sold, shoes, you know, whatever it is that people want to buy, right? And Nigeria is a huge consumer environment, right? Which is what is driving the e-commerce space in and of itself. But how can we do that? Again, technology can play into this and solve a lot of those, challenges that exist. How do we create value end to end, right? So from the sales perspective, right, from even that point, as a matter of fact, even before sales, from awareness, right, all the way through to claims and then feedback on the back end. Again, technology can solve this problem. A lot of insurance companies, I think most of them, probably have, insurance platforms on the back end that do the job of insurance, underwriting, managing your customers and those basic things, right? But is there end-to-end value being created in one system, in one platform, right? So that everything is integrated. Your data is also there. That's another part of it where technology can play in. The more data we collect, the more data we're able to analyze, the more data we're able to integrate into other things, the more personalized the solutions can be, right? So there's a lot of opportunity. Even in the regulatory space, we talked about, the human factor with LASMA and all of these, fancy acronyms that are on the road today, but still cannot change that, 3 million out of 12 million dynamic. Let's take it away from human enforcement. Let's make it, let's automate that enforcement. So you remove that fail point, which is usually the human being, right? So lots of opportunities. The real question, Vincent, is someone like me, who has an opportunity to really make a dent in these areas, because I understand insurance fundamentally, I understand financial services fundamentally. Are we willing to make the investment in something that is still a low 1% of GDP, right? That's the real question, right? So we start to look at, even within ourselves, we look at, are there opportunities for partnerships with the insurance players, with the insurance regulators, and with all of these partnership opportunities that exist, possibly in an ecosystem play. I'm open to having conversations with the Coronation Board of Directors, just for the record. But yeah, I think there are certainly a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, thank you so much, Zina. Really spot on, because embedded insurance is also something that we actively try to drive. There are a lot of opportunities where insurance can be automated today in Nigeria, and of course, both insurance providers, business owners, major stakeholders need to really be interested before we even begin to blame the population for not taking them up. We need to be interested and take lessons from advanced nations and see how we can make things better. Chibudike, I'll quickly come to you, right? In Nigeria, it's common today for one person to support not just a nuclear family, but also parents. Some call it black taxes. Some say that you have to feed the home that fed you, that brought you up, and all that stuff, right? Now, there are people today who are at very young ages, they are, for lack of a better word, breadwinners. They have to take care of their homes, their nuclear family, extended family, one uncle, one auntie somewhere else. Now, how should this kind of people in these situations think about the amount and the type of life insurance that would be okay for them, so that if life takes an unexpected turn on them, everybody's covered, sort of, or I don't know, right? Maybe major beneficiaries, but how should they begin to think about life insurance? Are they product designed for this kind of reality? And also, is it possible to buy life insurance policy on behalf of someone, maybe for a parent or a sibling?
Okay. So first of all, in terms of the reality, that's just the reality that is prevalent in this part of the world. We have very large families, and people more often than not are taking care of not just their immediate family, but also various extended family members. So in terms of how they can think about insurance when you're in that situation, I think there are three things to think about, three things to consider, really. The first thing is, obviously, you need to reflect on what am I spending to take care of my people, that's compared to my annual income, right? So for example, generally, it's recommended that your personal insurance policy should be up to 10 times your annual income. But in a situation where, like in our part of the world, where you're not just taking care of your immediate family, but you're also probably responsible for your father, your mother, in some cases, your in-laws, uncles, aunties, brothers, sisters, different things. You might have to probably think on having an insurance policy that with a sum assured with benefits of up to 15 to 20 times your annual income, because the key thing about insurance, like we said before, over and over again, is financial security. You want to be able to take care of them, at least up to a certain extent. You can't take care of them forever, obviously. The money will be finite. It's a finite resource, but at least you can keep them secured up to a point where hopefully they can be able to work on their own and continue to maintain a lifestyle even after the money has been exhausted. So that's the first thing. The second thing to consider is whether you want a policy that protects for the whole of your life. That's a lifetime protection policy, a whole life policy, or whether you want something that is more of a term assurance policy, something that you can be renewing every year, and maybe it's a bit more flexible. You can maybe say, okay, this year I want to reduce so much of the bit, this year I want to reduce so much of the bit. So that's another thing to consider. The final thing to consider is whether it's in terms of the payouts. So remember when I said, for example, that traditional group life policies, there's no lot of variance among group life policies. They all pretty much work the same way. If or when death occurs, they just make a lump sum payment that is up to 3 times your annual emolument, which, if you go back to what I said in the first place, ideally for your insurance policy, you should be looking at least minimum 10 times your annual income. So if you're just relying on group life policy alone, you are already a bit on the back foot. So now to the point I was making, you have to determine, how do I want this money to be paid to my families in the event of life happening? Let me put it like that. So you can decide, okay, do I want it to be a lump sum payment? That is, for example, in the scenario I give of 40,000 naira for 5 million naira, if death occurs or some other event occurs, do I want them to just get that 5 million naira flat for them to find out who they can share it, how they want to share it among themselves? Or do I want it to be a structured payout? So like a family income benefit, so something like maybe like a monthly or even annual, I wouldn't say salary, but annual payments to them. The money is structured so that it can last, it can be maybe paid towards school fees. You can structure it in a way that it can be catering to your child's annual school fees. So those are the 3 major things to consider. So in terms of the actual product, there are several. We have several. You can either go for a pure risk policy. So that's when you are taking over a term protection plan, lifetime protection plan, an education protection plan, a lifestyle protection plan. So those are just some examples. You could go for an endowment policy. So that's a combination of savings and insurance. So we have the legacy plan and education legacy plan. And so those are actually the 2 main products I'll recommend. And if you are someone that's looking to insure, looking to invest, you want to both invest but also get a bit of life insurance protection, you can go with any of our investment-linked policies. So I mean, in terms of actually getting insurance protection, we generally will prefer that you take either the pure risk or the endowment policy. But if you want return on investment, if you want to be able to collect something at the maturity of your policy, then the investment policies are the option for you. Now, in terms of providing life insurance cover, now buying it not for yourself, but for a third party, for example, I mean, yes, you can do that. You need consent and you need proof that there is insurable interest between you have insurable interest in the life of the person. For example, group life insurance, for example, a company is buying an insurance policy on behalf of all its employees because it has some interest in their being alive, in their well-being. So that's just it. And for another example, a more personal example, a husband and wife, a man has insurable interest in the life of the spouse and vice versa. So as long as you have consent and you can show insurable interest, then yes, you can buy an insurance policy on behalf of a third party.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chibudike. And I mean, really, really, really nice answers. Then I'm sure that people who are interested would can indicate in the chat on the question and answer section, and of course we would reach out to them. It's really important that we consider especially for people who today cater to a lot of people. It's important that we consider them in selecting our policies. We will move to the last round of questions now. Pi, I would have asked you to give us a life example, a moment where we've seen the presence or absence of insurance, but you've given us a lot of that on this call. So I'll just ask you for your final words on this topic. Just your final words in 1 minute.
Okay, great. So it's still a very important question, and I, like you mentioned, I shared some life examples in the course of the conversation. So I mean, the way I like to look at it is that it's not just one moment. You'd asked for one example, but it's many moments. But I think for me, it's the patterns that I have seen. The patterns are very extreme, really extreme, where you have those who prepared, which very few, you can count, I can count them in one hand, and then the many that were not prepared, and countless. So it's, the quiet difference that I would say, again, it makes, is really behind the scene, and it's over and over and over again. They don't make the newspapers, they don't make headlines, but they shape our lives. And that's why it's so so important that we pause for a moment and consider the fact that we're not planning for death. And I think that's the mindset that we need to shift. And as insurance providers, we have to spin that narrative, move from conversations around death, and maybe even change the, some of the terminologies in the policies to just help to drive and change that mindset around the subject, because what we're really doing is really protecting lives. And those will be my final words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pi. Thank you for all you've shared with us today. Olaidia, I'll move quickly to you, and yeah, still in the line of final words that you have for us, but you can also tie us to I mean, any experience that you've also had in the course of managing finance risk. I know you shared one earlier, but if you've had any other experience where maybe the presence or the absence of a life insurance made a significant difference, right? Other than that, you can also just give us your final words.
Life insurance would always make a significant difference, whether we want to take it up or not. But one thing I would always say in terms of my last closing remarks is just be prepared. This isn't just for you, it's really for your loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This isn't just for you, it's really, really for your loved ones. Zina, could you also give us your final words, and also maybe tell us from your association, I'm not sure you've shared that, if we've seen life insurance playing a critical role in protecting a family, a bereaved member, the children, or even the association itself.
Right. So fortunately, since we incepted these two separate sets of policies with Coronation last year, there's been no major event. Thank God for that. But I will go back a few years prior, when one of us actually. So many of us have been lost over a period of 5-6 years, unfortunately. And various things have happened based on whether or not they've had policies. For the most part, what we do in a loss of a member or a loved one, a close family member of a loved one, is we donate, right? And that was prior to this insurance inception. So in that situation, a couple of years ago, when we lost this young man, he had, how do I put this, a bit of a complex family situation. And without going into too much detail, the funds that were donated for his family, we had to think about the best way to apply it. And so this ties back to what you were saying, which is that it's really not about the person who dies, right? So whether, he was a great guy or not is irrelevant. The point is he left so many children of school age behind, and we felt the responsibility to kind of step in, as he was the sole breadwinner of the family situations that he had. So we felt the burden to step in and kind of contribute towards that situation. Unfortunately, in his situation, they had incepted a group life insurance policy with his secondary school group, which we were not a part of. And for some reason, the insurance company repudiated the claim, right? So again, going back to the situation of that trust and the foundation of, you know, a lack of trust in insurance in Nigeria today. So using that even as an anchor to then say to our folks, guys, you know what, let's do this, but let's do it with a company that is a trusted company, right? A company that we know will pay claims, because go into the public records, you will see they pay claims. There's a claims ratio that, you know, speaks for itself, so to speak, right? So that was part of the narrative in and of itself. And it made a big difference because there was a real sense of urgency. They saw a real need, right? And we were able to appeal to them based on that. But I do want to say one thing just in passing. I think that, you know, it's important, again, from our example, I think about 70%, quite possibly, of the members of both groups combined are actually diaspora Nigerians, right? And so these types of conversations should not be limited to Nigerians in Nigeria. It should be extended beyond the shores of Nigeria. And I think having sessions like this at a later time in the day would make a big difference because of the time zone challenges. There were a number of folks who wanted to attend, but really could not because it's, you know, 5, 6 a.m. in the morning for them wherever they are. So I think it's important that we start to create this awareness outside of Nigeria. Last words. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Zina. Really great suggestion there also at the end about the timing. So this session is recorded and it's going to be on our YouTube channel. So they can also always watch the replay, and of course we can. So people who register, we can easily send them Pi's presentation as well as the whole recording, so they can watch. But of course we can also consider that in our subsequent edition. So thank you so much. Chibudike, tell us your last words, right? Could you also include a real life example where a payout truly made a difference in a family's time of need? I mean, Zina just mentioned the fact that the claim wasn't paid for a particular, in another insurance company and all that. And yes, there is a widespread belief that insurance claims are hard to access. Even in the questions we've seen today from the Q&A section, people talking about, oh, how long did it take for a claim to be paid? And also, just while you give us your closing word, just quickly tell us in 2 minutes, please, about a time where a claim was truly paid.
Okay, so I'll just touch on the claims, the process of claims. So Coronation, here at Coronation Life, we have a mandate to pay claims within 48 hours after necessary documents are provided. So we have a process that is transparent, and we also emphasize empathy as well. And that is what guides our processes. So within 48 hours after complete documents, your claim will be paid. That's the Coronation guarantee. Now, in terms of an example, I will give the one that I think had the most impact on me personally. I think I'll give two. Please indulge me. I'll give one when I was a corper before I joined Coronation, and then after I joined Coronation, the one I saw live. So when I was a corper, I was taking lectures in an environment in Ikeja. So there was a neighbor. It was a very high-end apartment that they were staying in. And then one day we saw that, in fact, we could not hold lectures that day because there were a lot of people around. It seemed the breadwinner, the father, had died, and the woman she was a stay-at-home wife. They had young children. They were in a high-end apartment. So it seemed like, in fact, she was inconsolable. Not just that the husband had died, but also like what will she do? Where will she go? What will happen to our kids and everything? So and that was we had to take lectures off for about a week or two, and when I came back, it seemed things had gotten a bit calm, and I asked her what's going on. Is woman student? Oh, she's still there. That the insurance came through, that she's been able to pay off the rent for the apartment at this time, that the money she'll be looking to move to a cheaper place, but it will be somewhere that at least they can raise the children, they can still go to the same school. So the money was enough to at least maintain the lifestyle to a certain extent. An example I'll speak to that I witnessed personally. There was a client that had an investment policy with us, to just an investment policy, right? Contributing about 100,000 naira every month, and had a sum assured of 10 billion naira. So it seemed the man unfortunately passed away within the first year of the policy. So when the wife came, they were just expecting that, okay, we'll just come and collect. They thought it was something like, okay, we'll just come and do like a letter of administration and come and collect a money that man has invested in the company, which is part of it. But we also told them that, look at this, the man also has a sum assured of 10 million naira on this policy. And in fact, they were really shocked because up to the point of death, he had not even contributed up to 1 billion naira. But they are getting not just what has contributed, but also the sum assured of 10 million naira. In fact, they were just, the way they were shouting, I thought someone was fighting, but it was shouts of joy. So those are things I've seen it work, it works. And hopefully more people can get this, because I feel it's a very vital thing to have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chibudike. Thank you, everyone. I think it's been a very, very great session. I really wish we could go on and on. I feel like you all still have a lot to unpack, and you need to draw people's ears and say, why don't you have a life insurance policy, right? And we hope that this message has done so much in that regard. We'll quickly have the closing remark by Edwin Nabude, who's on the call, and he will take on the closing remark, and then we can close. Edwin, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Vincent. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Edwin Nabude, and I work for Coronation Life Assurance, Marketing and Communications. I would like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar, especially our keynote speaker, Pi. There are two things I'm leaving with today. First is that talking about loss may be uncomfortable, but preparation is the gift that we have to give our loved ones. Secondly, a good employer may pay salaries, but a great employer is the one that protects their employees. Special thanks also to Gina, to Laide, to Chibudike, and to our chief host, DMD Adebowale, for your support in making this webinar possible. If you have any questions or you want to make a purchase request, I dropped the marketing and communications email on the chat. Please click on it and send us your questions, send us your requests. Until our next webinar, thank you and stay well.
Thank you so much, Edwin. Thank you, everyone. And of course, recordings will be sent to everyone, all attendees, and even those who didn't attend but registered will get the recordings and get the presentation. And of course, we will take your questions till we meet again. Thank you so much, and do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.